Okay. Right. Welcome. This is an invitation for folks that want to take part in trying to model, to do the last part of the Sqale app, the last or major graph. Okay, we've got the distribution graph, which shows how the things are shared with money and their valuations and so on and so forth. Very powerful, very, very powerful graph. We have the gratitude, thanks SQ graph, which is incredibly powerful too, because it shows how people are interacting and thanking each other, and how healthy the social engagements are. Fantastic, it's beautiful. And the third part is how projects and things come together. Now, I've done a video and I've recorded some discussion about it, and I've kind of done a little bit of an intro, but I forgot to mention this one thing, and that's why I'm setting up this one to start with. Okay, we're coming towards the end of the funding, and there's a chance, a very small chance, of trying to pull together the thinking, okay, and producing the third graph for projects, okay, intentions. How do our intentions, and that's the intent value on the app, and how credits, money towards future objectives, fit in such a way that we produce something on an iPhone, okay, that is simply enough that people go, oh yeah, and they can order projects in the future in such a way that they can see their own individual timeline and, with a button, see everybody else's timeline collectively. So I can see my own timeline with different projects, and then I see everybody else's relating to maybe a specific project. That's probably useful. Related to another project. And so therefore, and it's a future thing that changes day by day as we do things and we learn, and our future, this image of the future changes. Okay, so it's not a fixed thing that we are trying to replicate. It's not like somebody's created this future map. That's what our current system is. It's like the blueprints, and we all have to go ahead and try and recreate it. And we're like machines, all right? No, this is like a reflective surface which is live, which reflects us currently, our thinking now towards the future. So it shows this is what I'm hoping to do, and then it's showing what other people are hoping to do. And certain things, those hopes are quite concrete because there are dependencies. They're called strong or hard dependencies, like making sure that the kids eat. Okay, get enough food for the kids. And then there are other ones that are more flexible or soft dependencies. Something has to happen before another thing. Not sure when, not sure how, but it has to happen before this other thing, all right? Or after this other thing. And so we get these soft dependencies, and we have decisions about how that works. And instead of arguing about it and discussing it and whatever, we've got a system where you kind of suggest what you think, kind of, and you act on that. That's what you're acting on. And other people are doing the same. And that's our map. It's a collective shifting map. It's more like looking at fire and how it kind of moves like that. That's what this map will look like over time. It looks like this, and then the next day or the next hour it looks like this, looks like that, and it will change slightly depending on what we do and what we prove and evidence that we come up with, and people changing their minds, of course. So the effect is it's a bit like murmuration. It's the equivalent of murmuration. Now, if you look at the mathematics of murmuration, Reynolds, 1987, Boyd's, we're talking about vectors. Okay, and it's the rules by which vectors relate. Now, the Boyd's were for physical objects. We're talking about birds, we're talking about fish, we're talking about all these things. Starlings when they're moving around. How does that happen? Now, the mathematics we've done, and we can simulate it, great, vectors. But what does this mean in terms of us, adults, human beings, future projections? And the vectors we've got are two. One, intention. Okay, so if you look at a project and you put an intent, that's not a rating because it's your intention towards it. It's like your enthusiasm, your intent, your motivation, whatever, all right? You've got something towards it. Now, choose the word intent for that. But the point is you've got an intention, which is contiguous with the actual thing happening. Your intention is influencing and will act on you behaviorally to produce whatever the result is. And that is related to another vector called credits, and that is more like a hard or absolute measure. And those two measures in our future intentions creates the equivalent of murmuration. Okay, so any moment when we're looking at murmuration, we're looking at the starlings, and then it kind of swoops around, that future projection of our intentions and our money flow is a snapshot of murmuration. And the next day is slightly different, like the way the murmuration changes. Okay, why? Because the ones at the bottom of they're all flocking downwards, and then the ones at the birds at the bottom are like, no further, no, I'm not going to go down anymore. I'm going to start veering off because, there's like a tree there, so I'm going to avoid that tree. And then the birds around it go, oh, this other person's moving. Okay, I'll move. And so the tree is avoided, the ground is avoided, and the whole thing moves up. All right? And so it goes and moves. Similarly with us, we've got future intentions, and as we go forward, certain things happen, and we change our direction psychosocially. Actually, in the real world, we change our directions dependent on current conditions that we're sensitive to as we are projecting into the future. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what we're attempting to do here. And if you're interested in this, please do take part. It's not that hard. It's a bit tricky. Have a look at the video. Have a look at the information. There's only a few elements, but they're a bit tricky. Okay, and you've got to kind of hold them kind of lightly in your mind, and there will be a few people. If you're one of them, please take part. Go, look, it's this and it's this. I think it's this. Great. Okay. Or if you know anybody that's kind of up to this kind of thing, who's either thinking about this or would like to, share it with them. If we can generate revenue in this process, great. So we're crowdsourcing and crowdfunding how we're doing this. Got a little bit of money. If nobody else puts any money in, I'll put a little bit more money in that I don't have, okay, to make this last part. Remember, again, it's actually quite simple. We're trying to create a phone image, okay, something you can use on an own, and a child can use. Oh, this is what I'm going to do today. Boop, boop, boop. This is what I'm going to do. These are my plans. Oh, okay, great. And they've got a future plan. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a train engine, I don't know why, train driver, that's what they used to, football player. I want to, work with computers. And they've got these things. And so a kid can use this thing, and then they go, oh, everybody else wants to too. Oh, interesting. And to much more, like project management, how do we go forwards to, councils, how do we actually get to regenerate city centres, or, globally, how do we, solve sustainable issues and adaptive, how do we adapt to the changes that are occurring globally? Okay, all of that on a phone. Okay, it's pretty simple though. It's quite simple, but have a look at it. And if it makes any sense to you, please, do take part in any way that you can. Share forwards if you can. Invest, support if you can. Okay, be well and welcome.